Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, One Rental at a Time, and we have a best-selling author who is we're going to talk about writing a book, publishing a book, what you could do, because a lot of you are talking about side hustles, and Rachel and I have both heard about so many people that want to write a book. So, Rachel, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I know you best-selling book, best-selling author, amazing. You've had speaking engagements because of it. Lots of people are I don't know, I'll say enamored with the idea of writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
Myself, having written two, know exactly how hard it is. But when you hear somebody say, "Hey, I want to write a book," what are kind of the first things you think about, or maybe you offer up as advice?
Oh man, there's so much in that question. Man, it's like, first of all, like how much do you really want it? How passionate are you about that topic? Because it's going to be your life for the next 6 months, and it's going to be grueling, and it's going to be hard writing through it. So you have to be really passionate about it.
Yeah. I don't know about you, Rachel, but I have started a dozen books, writing a dozen books, but I've only finished two because of exactly what you talked about.
Me too, though. I mean, I think that's like the author, the writer in us. It's like there's all these little subtitle books out there. Oh, this would be a good one. And then you look back a year later, like, oh, that was terrible. I'm so glad.
Terrible. What am I doing?
I know. So yeah. So there are definitely those winners, and definitely those ones you're like, let's not bring that up in public anymore. But yeah, it's a process, and it's definitely a process these days of like trying to figure out, are you going to self-publish? Are you going to go traditional publish? Are you going to do a hybrid? There's different options out there, and you just kind of have to figure out, based on some parameters, which option is the best one to choose. So
yeah, it's really interesting because again, I've only self-published. I'm not a good enough writer to have actually a publishing house to take one of my books, the structure, sentence structure, and all. Anyways, I don't think I qualify to be like a published author like that way. But self-published is awesome.
Don't say that, because guess what? I mean, the traditional publishers, they're the ones, they have these really amazing editors. Like I don't feel like I'm the most amazing. I actually struggle at grammar, and they just hack the crap out of it. Sorry, but like they just do, and they make it sound so much more polished. And I mean, I do try to make sure that they don't take my voice out of that, because sometimes they can get too polished. And I'm like, no, this is just how I would say it. I want to say it like this. So yeah, having that, I mean, I've also self-published a couple just journals and stuff. So I know that process a little bit too, although those were simpler. But yeah, it's still a process, and yeah.
So again, I've never even asked, this is the first time I ever asked this question. How'd you get on the radar of a publisher? Did you just take them a rough draft and an idea and you shopped it around, or how does that work?
Okay. Well, I actually I went to a conference way back in the day, and I met this other, national bestseller, author, that sort of thing. And she had a program to go through to learn about publishing and all that, and speaking in that. So that was like a year-long online type of thing. I did take that program. That did help me to understand the ins and outs of publishing, what a, proposal looks like, what is, the first steps. Do I get a, agent, or who do I post to? So initially in the beginning, I did do the whole kind of traditional publishing route, which is, you create a book proposal, and then you just start pitching that book idea.
Book proposal, just so people know what that is. That's like it's
kind of like an outline. Yeah. Okay. So it's an outline. So if you're doing like a nonfiction, you don't have to write the whole book out. If you're doing a fiction book, they actually require you to have the whole book done, which is ahead of time, which is kind of crazy. So nonfiction, you can get away with like 3 first chapters. You kind of have a synopsis. You have to have like a marketing summary, like what you're going to offer for marketing. So there's some things and parameters. You could probably Google all this now. I'm sure it's on there.
I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Yeah, it's out there. So, and then once you kind of go through all that, you take it, and then you start looking into publishing houses or publishing agencies that would take on that type of book. And so some of them would be more on, they do recipes and cookbooks. Others are more focused on children. Some have mixed, nonfiction. So there are different kind of literary houses that would take on that type of thing. And then they'll pitch it to certain publishing houses that also take on that type of book. So there's lots of different genres. It's kind of like real estate, there's commercial, there's industrial, there's residential. Yeah, it's like all that. So you got to have that figured out first. And so then that's when I started pitching it to different agents and for 6 months actually. And I got quite a few responses. None of them were taking it on though. They had some good things to say. And so finally this one time it was kind of a Hail Mary again. Like, I'll just be honest. It was like, again, I don't know how it happened, but I went to this publishing house. It was the one that does Lifeway books. I don't know if you're familiar with the Christian book house. Anyways, it's a pretty big publisher. But they had a random email, that I had scrolled through. I found a random email of how to submit. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to try it. Because normally you have to have an agent. So I submitted it. And the next day I heard back from an email. I thought it was fake though. I totally thought they were. Yeah, no, I did. I thought it was, I was like, is this for real? That they loved it. They wanted to talk. So we got on the phone, and even on the phone, like after she's gone through it, because she's like ready to offer me, all this stuff. And I'm just like, is this for real? And I told her, I was like, so it's real, right? Like this is a real book contract.
This is not some prank, this mean prank.
Yeah. And I said, I thought I had to have an agent. She's like, well, 99% of the time you do. You're just like one of those random 1% that apparently just got through, and we just love this idea. And I think we want to take it on. I was like, okay. So that was pretty cool. So we got that one direct from there. And then after that, I did get it was actually easier. So I did it the flip side, where I got an agent after that. And so I had an agent for many years and pitched with him and got some more book contracts. And yeah, it was pretty fun.
That sounds like a lot of work to me.
It is. You know what? I worked harder then than I do now with real estate. I'll just be 100% honest.
Yeah.
It was exhausting.
I love writing books because I've seen how much they can help people.
Yeah.
But I would not sacrifice my quality of life to do that. Now I'm like, nope, not doing any of that headaches. I'm going to write it. I'm going to go to Amazon. I'm going to self-publish. Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel terrible. Like, can I be very honest with you? Gosh, I don't even know if I've ever said this, but like, and I have never worked. So my babies were little too. They were like 2 and 3 years old.
Yeah.
And I was working like 80 plus hours, like night and day in the evenings. I was exhausted. I was trying to keep up like with this whole publishing. Cause once you get the contract, it was just this like all of a sudden there's this momentum and wave and dates and and then I had to promote myself and gain my platform and all this kind of stuff. And then I had to put more money into doing all that kind of, it was just crazy. And it was exhausting. I was so tired. So truthfully, by the time 2020 hit and it shut things down, it was a blessing in disguise, you guys, because I was like, I don't know how to keep up with this. And it wasn't paying me enough personally. Traditionally, I was not getting enough to do without that. And whereas I get paid way more now with way less work and way less time. And I, that, to me, that's more important to me, my time.
That's an amazing realization, right? Because writing a book, being an author, going around and speaking at events, people see the glamour, but there's a lot of work behind the scenes.
And I don't regret it. Like I really believe this was something so special and of value. And these books were amazing. And I still touch people, and I still get messages to this day of people saying, oh my gosh, I just got your book and it's amazing. Like those comments really just fuel me. But I have to say that was a heart project. Those were heart projects. It was not about the income and the time. To me, I was pouring myself, I was sacrificing my income and my time, because for me, I wasn't getting paid enough, I feel like, to do all that. And my time. And now it's like, I would not go back to that. I'm not going to go back and sacrifice all my time, for not enough pay. And, so real estate, thankfully, has
go to Amazon and look up Rachel C. Swanson and show her some love. That would be wonderful.
Thanks.
But yeah, so when I get these, so I've never known that. I have never known that process. I did have one publisher, when one rental at a time crossed 10,000 copies sold, reach out to me. Go, hey, I just saw your book at, I just saw your book at 10,000. They actually said, hey, why don't you do a version 2 and let us publish it? I'm like, that's kind of shady.
That's pretty actually common. They want to kind of, they feel like they can help you do a better job by getting more, out there more. And possibly they could, like, there's definitely, for me in my first book, like 100%, the only reason it became a national bestseller was because of my publisher. They really did a fantastic job of that. But, so I think that was fantastic. However, going forward now, I think I would self-published now.
And again, I mean, again, I only have one experience actually, because I've had many requests, but every other request I've gone, I just reply back, no, thank you, I'm happy. But the first time I'm like, well, I don't know what this is. I mean, he's talking about giving me what would it be, a 4-figure
Advance.
check in advance,
Yeah.
10 or 20 grand, blah, 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 blah. But then I'd have to commit to all these dates. And I'm like, so how much exactly do I make on a book? And it's like 90 cents or something.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah, it's like 90
you have to
cents.
sell a lot of books.
I gotta sell a lot of books. And I'm like, and he's always talking money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you clearly haven't read my book, because I don't need the money.
Yeah.
And I felt a little icky in that example, because he's like, hey, all you got to do is take one rental at a time, take it off Amazon, create version 2, add 25% new content, and bingo bango, you got a new book. I'm like, yeah, no, bye.
And why do that if it's already working? I mean, it's reaching people, it's impacting people, you are getting paid probably more. I mean, over time,
it's like $7. I get, like, again, I don't mind sharing, right? It's I think it's $7.02.
Yeah,
on
that's
one rental
so
at a
much
time,
more.
and then like $6 on the next book. Because what I didn't know about Amazon publishing, here's a lessons learned if you publish on Amazon. Don't put pictures. My first book has one picture in the entire book. My second book, 15 Conversations with Real Estate Millionaires, has, I think, 71 pictures. It costs a lot more. And the first time I published it was in color. I'm like, don't do that. It's like, mistake. So anyways,
expensive book.
Yeah, it's an expensive book. It was like, I remembered I sold it for $29.99, the second book at the time. And it cost $28 to publish. So I make like 40 cents. I'm like, whoops, we're not going color. So if you were one of the people to get a color book, you're like one of 100 people.
Yeah.
That came off really fast.
It's like one of those rental houses you just definitely don't want.
Like, whoops, sell it, get rid of it.
Negative cash flow.
Negative. It's alligator. It's an alligator.
That's an alligator.
But going back to kind of the first time, this was my process for one rental at a time. And you tell me where it's different or whatnot. Basically, I had the idea. What I did is I went out and created a basic outline. I call them sections. And that's how the book's broken down, 4 sections. And then what I did is I personally attacked each section one at a time, kind of making its own thing. And really my idea first was, this was just for me. It wasn't a book. It was almost a diary of my history. Like, I got to get this out of me. So it came pretty quickly. Sub 90 days for the first very rough draft. Then I sent it around. People liked it. I added a little bit more. Then I sent it to an editor in New York. So I paid serious money to get this edited. And to your point, the first one that came back, I lost my entire voice. It was probably a better written book, but it wasn't my voice.
Yeah.
So that was a waste of effort. So then I found another one that allowed me, and we collaborated a lot more. But the editing took 6 months and the writing was 4 months. So for me, the editing was much longer, much more difficult.
It can be. I mean, traditional publishing, it's a little different, I guess, because I think with them, you're on their timeline. Whereas I think with the editing process on your end, you might be a little bit less
it is.
But, it depends on the editor too. And you have to find the right fit of that editor, because otherwise they can really change your whole feel and tone of the book. And then it doesn't even sound like you. So, I thought your book was refreshing because I could hear your own tone. It was more candid on your testimony of, your journey and your story, which I really love. People love stories. And so the story of real estate was just really fun to read with your book. So
awesome. And then I got feedback, because it was really a PDF for, I don't know, 6 or 9 months. And then it became a book. Then for me, going to Amazon, I paid somebody to upload the manuscript. Then you had to create a cover. Never did that before. Created a cover and then a back. I mean, these are all things I had to learn. Right. So I think self-publishing is probably right for 99% of the audience out there. It can be something, but realize you're going to also have to do a lot of marketing on your own.
Yeah, but at least you do have the control, because even right now, I feel like I wish I could market my book more. However, I mean, like I said, I only get like maybe 50 cents to $1 a book, and so I'm not going to be, I'd be paying more to market it,
That's
and
funny.
so, and then once it gets past a certain point, the publishers really don't market your book anymore. So, unless you're like, I don't know, super famous or something like that, then they might keep going with it,
Yeah.
but I'm not super famous. So
Rachel C. Swanson, folks, go show her
I'm
some
really
support.
not.
Yeah. And then I am interested. It sounds like your first book, again, a bestseller, led to a lot of speaking engagements. Was that about being an author, or how was the tie-in?
Mm, so at the time, it was more on spiritual kind of
Okay.
growth stuff, as a women's kind of retreat speaker.
Okay.
However, I did start getting into a little bit of getting some requests on some business speaking about like how to write a book and
Sure.
the author process and that sort of thing. So that was towards yeah, that's about when everything blew up. But yeah, but
Yeah,
it
2020.
worked out. Yeah,
There you go. There you
2020
go.
though, no year nobody wants to talk about.
Yeah. So I am curious. Obviously you're doing a big move now. All of this, you're looking to do a 1031 exchange in real estate. But what I have found with people that I know that have written a book, they always have that itch.
Mm,
Writing a book it is work. At least for me, it's a struggle. But when you get to that finish line, at least for me, it's like there's nothing like it. So is there
yeah.
another book in Rachel's future?
Oh, definitely. I have one. I'm sitting on it because I feel like I still need more time because it mixes real estate, it has to do with my pivot and how to pivot well. And, and then the journey with real estate and how that's been, a huge blessing to our family. So, for me, yeah, I feel like also just like you, it takes a lot of time and I'm just like, I don't know if I want to sacrifice all that time right now, especially when I'm still building. And this next year is really focused to getting my husband out of his W-2 job, getting enough cash flow for that. Because of this big move, we have a lot of other expenses that are coming
Yeah.
up or that just occurred from the move itself. So anyways, that's just more my focus. So I feel like 2024,
Okay.
that's when I'll
Nice.
have a book, my next one, I think, and this time it'll be self-published, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, if I can help in any way, please let me know.
Thanks.
Read it, draft, whatever you like.
Oh,
I
I
think it'd be a
appreciate
lot
that.
of
I love
fun.
that.
Yeah. And again, one more time, where can people find you?
Yeah, Instagram's my favorite place. So Rachel C. Swanson. You can find me there and yeah, shoot me a message. I respond to my messages. So once I see
There you go.
them.
Folks, do me a favor, send her a note today. Say you saw her in one rental at a time. That would be greatly appreciated. So she knows this hour was well worth it. Thank you so much, Rachel.
Thanks, guys.